Hi friends, this is Pastor Larry and the show is From the Front Lines. Here we learn to do battle in a world of conflict. The world is not a playground, but a battleground. And I think as soon as we realize that, we're ready for the battle. We prepare for the battle. Today is Friday, February the 21st, 2020. And we're going to take a break in the series that I've been doing. Instead, I want to talk about China. There's lots of things going on in China. I want to give a little bit of a background that leads up to the coronavirus epidemic, and I want to put it into, what should I say, biblical or Christian perspective. And of course, due to the constraints of time, we'll try to be about 15 minutes, I certainly can't cover everything. It'll be a little bit sketchy, but even with a sketchy background, I believe that we can see some really significant things happening and tie the coronavirus pandemic, it's really a pandemic, into God's plan for planet Earth before the rapture. The story of Jesus in China is a story of deeply committed believers, a powerful work of the Holy Spirit of God, and increasing persecution that's bringing more arrest and more restrictions. The growth of the church in China is regarded as a menace to the communist government. It's seen as a security threat. Since late January 2020, the coronavirus epidemic has added another twist to this developing story, and I think it's a very, very significant development. What ultimately will the effect of the virus be? How does the virus, and it really seems to be a pandemic at the present time today. I understand there's a case of the coronavirus in Israel, but what will the ultimate effect of this pandemic be? For centuries, we have to be honest, China has been colonized and abused. I kind of think of it as the rape and abuse of a large nation and a great people. Now, we don't want to discount the good that multiplied thousands of missionaries did in China, but by and large, the West has left a bad taste in the mouths of the Chinese people. And these abuses have been used by tyrants like Mao and the Chinese Communist Party to legitimize their godless agenda against Christianity, against Western influence. So, our sins of the past have come back to haunt us. Even though Mao and his followers were very, very brutal, Mao has earned a lot of respect amongst the Chinese people. He put an end to Western imperialism, pushed back Japan, and he really put China on the map. And the Chinese Communist Party has had many notable successes. When you think of the building, the railroads, the military, there have been many, many successes. Nevertheless, there have been some, especially the youth, who were not happy with the party. In the 1980s, there were student protests against government corruption. The slaughter that took place at Tiananmen Square gives ample proof to the way that the Chinese Communist Party handles dissent. Crush it. That's exactly what they do. They're not very diplomatic about it. Late on the evening of June the 3rd, 1989, Deng Xiaoping, who was the main leader in China from 1978 to 1992, had secured the support of regional commanders of the People's Liberation Army for a total suppression of the student movement. I want to read a little bit from David Aikman in his book, Jesus in Beijing. He tells what happened at Tiananmen Square. Quote, hundreds, perhaps thousands of Beijing citizens, including many students, were killed as soldiers in trucks and tanks fought their way toward Tiananmen Square, close quotes. In the days and weeks that followed, there was further suppression. Now, here's what's interesting. Some of the older people actually appreciated the suppression because they had a disdain for the youth. The youth allegedly had been infected with Western imperialism and some strange ideas, and many of the older people actually really applauded Mao Zedong. Mao was absolutely sure that this was the way to gain the loyalty of the people, and he really had gained a great deal of loyalty from the Chinese people because, like I say, they had been abused by the West, and so once Mao made China a great nation and put China on the map, a lot of people came to appreciate Mao, even though he was a brutal dictator and probably killed 60 or 70 million Chinese people. As a matter of fact, Mao once warned the world that if anyone tried to oppose communism in China, that the people would rise up against that individual. He said this: "Whoever wishes to oppose communism must be prepared to be mauled and torn to pieces by the people. If you have not yet made up your mind about being mauled and torn to pieces, it would be wise for you not to oppose communism." So said Mao Zedong. And notice that Mao did not say that the government would maul and tear to pieces the opponents of communism, but rather the people would do this. So Mao was so certain that he had won a great hearing. Now, what had happened following Tiananmen Square? Well, first of all, there was further suppression of all dissent. Millions of Chinese people got the message, don't mess with the Chinese Communist Party. But something else happened. There was a second response, and that was that hundreds of students and young people who were not previously interested in religion of any sort were now interested in one religion in particular, and that was Christianity. There was just a great rise of interest in the gospel. House churches began to grow. One of the leaders of the house church movement, Pastor Wang Yi, wrote a manifesto signed by some 400 house church pastors, and it was a powerful manifesto that really created a deep love in the unregistered church for Jesus Christ. Wang Yi is in jail now. They've treated him in a very horrible way. He was the pastor of the Early Rain Covenant Church in Chengdu. And what's been going on since his arrest? What's been going on since the suppression of the house church movement? Well, I want to play a video, a little clip that is on the website of asiaharvest.org. It's a tremendous website. And in the video, you will see two individuals in yellow hazmat suits handing out face masks. And guess what else they're handing out? They're handing out gospel tracts. It's illegal to do that, but they're doing it. And you can hear the rapid-fire staccato-like Mandarin and see the translation, what they're saying. And I caused these two individuals, I think they're men, they're in yellow hazmat suits, I call them the Prophet of Wuhan. They're urging people to turn to Jesus Christ. And they're saying that God is angry, but that God has offered a way of escape from judgment through Jesus Christ. It's an amazing clip. These prophets of Wuhan face great danger. They face the danger of the coronavirus itself, and there's also danger from the local police. And yet they go out there and they're preaching the gospel. In one of the sections of the clip, you can see one of the cars have backed up, and it's just loaded with gospel tracts. Now, this is all illegal. And what's really amazing about it is that there are people who are taking the tracts. Now, why is that amazing? Well, because so many in China know that they are on the camera. Okay, there's surveillance cameras everywhere, and normally they would be afraid to take a gospel tract. They would kind of turn away and just walk away. They wouldn't want the police to say, hey, you took a gospel tract. But now there seems to be an openness. People are taking the tracts. They're listening to the message of the gospel. Here is the video clip.
代表上帝的爱心，谢谢。愿上帝祝福小区各位街坊邻居。健康最重要。好，闪开一点，别挤在一起。好，领导口罩及时离开，免得交叉感染啊。要多的话，领导口罩就开，领导福音单张就离开。 因为人类犯罪离弃了神，都活在神愤怒的审判底下，没有公义，没有良善，没有生命，也没有平安。神将患难加给一切不愿意寻求真理的人，是要叫人知道耶稣基督是人类的道路、真理和生命。谁愿意舍弃自己的儿子来成全别人呢？神却为了拯救罪人，舍弃他的独生子耶稣基督，为了使罪人脱离灵魂灭亡的结局，使他们不受硫磺火湖的审判，就差遣他的儿子到世间来。圣经说，耶稣基督降世为要拯救罪人，他在地上33年半的时间传天国的福音，世人却将他钉死在十字架上。哪知他是为我们的罪而死，是为了使一切投靠他的人在神面前罪得赦免，灵魂得救，有永生。
Now, what does all of this mean? Well, it means that the coronavirus epidemic has hit the Chinese Communist Party hard. After several decades of rigid control, arrest, the destruction of church property, the incarceration of unregistered church pastors, talk and actually a move to rewrite the Bible to be more compatible with Chinese culture, we see, I really believe that the Chinese Communist Party has taken a disastrous hit from the coronavirus, and the people are angry. The party is no longer working for them. The Chinese Communist Party seems to be powerless to solve the problem. And this is very significant because in the last 30 or 40 years, the party has accomplished so much in China, building a massive military. A couple of months ago, Admiral Luo of the Chinese Navy said that he was going to sink 2 U.S. aircraft carriers with 5,000 personnel aboard. He was boasting about killing 10,000 Americans. So recently, we see, however, that the party, because of its evident ineptitude to deal with the problem, has turned a lot of people off. There has been a big move to remove a number of top party officials in Hubei province, that is the province in which is located the city of Wuhan, the epicenter of the virus. This is an attempt, I believe, to protect President Xi from the people's anger, because they are angry. China experts say the firings are an attempt to divert blame from President Xi onto lower-ranking officials in the worst affected areas. And so many other officials were actually given warnings from the party and also, quote, serious administrative demerit. So it seems like the president is trying to get the blame off of himself and say, well, the people under me, they haven't been doing their job. I think China's desperate. Production is down. And experts have warned that China's efforts at containing the virus through quarantine have actually failed. The virus is spreading. But despite that fact, China is now pressing hard to open factories. That's a disaster. With factories having full work crews, the spread of the virus could be exponential, and yet China needs to get back to production. So it seems to me that God is crushing another proud despot. You know, in Daniel chapter 3, King Nebuchadnezzar built his monstrous statue on the plain of Dura, and the king basically told the people that when you hear the music, you better bow down. The king was feeling pretty good about himself in chapter 3 of Daniel. Then he had a bad dream. Let me read from Daniel chapter 4. It gives the interpretation. It says, "This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which has come upon my lord the king. They shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beast of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou knowest that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will." I think what we're seeing in China is the fact that God knows how to depose despots. I believe, I've been praying for it. I know many people have been praying for it. I believe that this is perhaps the beginning of great distrust in the hearts of the Chinese people, distrust of the Chinese Communist Party, and the beginning of really hard feelings against the party, leading to what I would hope would be a revolution. And what kind of a revolution? I would hope it to be a Jesus revolution. You know, I've said this before, but I think when revival starts in China, I think there's going to be revival all over the world. We're seeing it even now, but I think China is the key because China has a long, long history of Christian evangelism and revival. And I believe that we're really close to the rapture, but something has to happen before that, and we see it happening right now. There has to be a mighty work of the Spirit of God in the world, and I think God is preparing the hearts of the Chinese people for this mighty work. God bless you. You have a wonderful weekend, and you remember to pray for the saints in China.